I'm here. This is Inspiration with Keith. And in studio with me this morning is Mr. Dwight Jones, founding director of the Young Bahamian Music Society. Once again, good morning, sir. How are you doing?
Enjoyable experience for me. Most of the time I'm more, this is Dwight Jones.
Yes.
But you kind of set up an atmosphere where this is kind of really an opportunity for people to understand that I'm not all business. The reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because I care.
Yes.
And the human element is always there. And so this is probably giving people who listen to other interviews and read paper articles about me that this is a bit different.
Hey, thank you. You know, we just chilling. You know, it's like we sitting on the couch. You know, we got, got some switcher, got some lemonade, and we just chilling and talking.
The next time use the raw cane sugar, man, because I can't. Next time when you put it together, use the raw cane sugar, man.
Yeah.
I got some young people's parents out there who, when I was making switcher for the camp, man, they were bringing sugar in because.
We can work it out. We can work it out. You know, get a little conch salad too. You know. This is how we do, folks, on Inspiration with Keith, and we do showcases. We don't do straight up interviews. Okay,
that's great.
So and at the end of the day, your life experiences, sir, the things that you were exposed to, the forces that helped to shape you, and the things that you fought against to be who you are today.
Wow.
All of that is important because not just for your benefit and your growth, but the fact that you're taking the time to share it.
Wow.
Others do not have to take the same amount of time or suffer the same setbacks.
That's correct.
That you have, simply because you've taken the time to share it here on today's show, and of course with the Young Bahamian Music Society.
Maybe I should have said this off air, but there's a great opportunity that was put in my lap.
Yeah.
A guy who I produced songs with years ago, who was being mentored by Norman Whitfield of Motown. He was signed to Motown, and he was in the Rick James Band.
Wow.
Chris Powell. Actually started a youth program for music in Columbus.
In Columbus, Ohio.
That has gone worldwide. It's called STARS, STARS, worldwide.
Yes.
And they have affiliate programs in South Africa and Brazil and different parts of the United States and Canada. And he just asked me to start STARS Bahamas.
Wow. So what would that mean? Would that mean that all of those affiliate networks would...
Right. What now that's a gateway.
Yes.
To all of those locations with the worldwide youth subculture.
Yes.
Which Stars Worldwide is using as this vehicle to distribute music to different parts of the world in ways that had never been done before.
Wow.
By having young people who record, and we're looking for ways to have their music go international in South Africa.
Yes.
Now they not only are able to send their music to the other affiliates and enjoy the connections that those affiliate youth have in those locations, but it works vice versa. And then the compounding is not only compilation albums that they can put together from different music from these different countries that can be marketed by the young people. And while they're marketing themselves, they're also marketing other young people from different parts of the world. Yes. Then there's also this, now I record a verse here in the Bahamas on a young person, and then that same song has been sent to someone in Africa, and they record another verse.
Wow.
And then all that stuff is sent to Columbus, and it's mixed together, and so you're having these features. And these young people never meet each other except for their talent meeting, each other's talent meeting the proper home within the work that they end up doing as, how can I say, collaborators.
Yes. Man, that's an exciting opportunity, man. Well done.
And so what that does, that opens pretty much a pipeline for us to be able to take fresh new music, whether it be underground or really popular music here in the Bahamas, and be able to send it to young people in different parts of the world that heretofore they may not have had access to.
Yes. Man, so you're Young Bahamian Music Society. You're doing a lot of really great things, man. So there's one thing that you did. I don't know if you still do it. You're going to have to clarify this point for me. But there seem to be opportunities for young people to come to you guys and record for free.
Right. We originally started the first
Yes.
And only Free for Youth Public Studio.
Free for Youth Public Studio.
Right there behind C.B. Morris's church on Augusta Street.
Yes,
we were there from 2002 to 2007. Mm-hmm. And we recorded countless numbers of songs on the same countless number of young people.
Yes.
Also, there were those opportunities to be able to deal with the young people and to give them something positive to do other than those things you enumerated earlier in terms of something that could lead them down a negative way.
Yes.
And so that was a great experience. And that was the first time the Department of Culture
Yes.
had ever given money to assist a music program in pop music, because
Nice.
before that time they maybe assisted pop gospel.
Right.
May have, I'm not sure. But most of the music was symphonic. The Department of Culture was the National Youth Choir,
Right.
the National Boys Choir, the Youth Orchestra, those types of things. And so it was really a great opportunity. Thank you, Nicolette Bethel, for thinking out of the box and sticking your neck out a little bit and giving us the one-shot funding for the entire 4 years we were there.
Wow.
We
Yes.
used that to buy equipment. Because we had to rebuy the equipment that I brought with me because I was already recording young people
Right.
before we got that funding.
Yes.
And so we were able to buy the material to section the office off. There was an office front. And we actually built a functioning studio
Yeah.
with a recording room, control room, everything wired, no wires running from out one door into the other.
Yeah,
Just
right.
glass in between the control rooms. And these young people were able to experience in a small setting what we are now doing in an enormous setting at Compass Point Studio.
Wow. Now let's talk about that for a quick sec, because I mean, Compass Point is world renowned.
Yes.
World renowned. I mean,
Yes.
pretty much everybody, countless Grammy Award winners,
Hundreds of gold records.
hundreds of
I'm sorry,
gold records.
and hundreds of platinum records.
Yeah, so all over the world. Travel right here to the
Recorded
Bahamas
right
and
there.
they
Bob
perform.
Marley recorded his first album in London, and after that,
Yes.
he recorded successive albums there right at Compass Point Studio.
Bob Marley.
So people say that Jamaican music, well, because it's from Jamaica, well, actually it was recorded in the Bahamas. So
Yes.
technically it could be something else besides Jamaican music, you know.
That's an interesting point right there.
And so if you're wondering why there's a resort down the road with with the Marley name on it, it's because they spent a lot of time here.
Yes.
And because a lot of the recording was done right here in Nassau.
Wow. So what's it like being there at the Compass Point studio? Because I know, some changes happened, but still, it's yours now.
No, it's ours.
Right. Oh, wait, okay. Right. That's a good correction. It's ours. When you say it's ours, you mean as in,
Well,
it's,
for whatever
young people's
reasons.
own,
Well, actually, I know that we're the first group where people who are involved in the community
yes.
have the least to the place. Then connected solidly to the community. Thanks to Mr. Lee Rodney, who happens to be an American himself, out of Detroit. A great gentleman who is benevolent enough to allow me to be there at times when we're not able to quite pay the bills. He doesn't breathe down our neck. But at the same time, we've been getting some funding from the Ministry of Rural Urban Development. And I want to say, before we can go any further when we start talking about funding, we do not in any way think that the government is the sole source of support for youth programs. The
In the country.
corporate Bahamas,
Yes.
civil society, people who just care about young people step up all the time in other programs.
Yeah.
And we are just looking for that to happen in a more even-board way, and for people to not think that you got a great program, you need to go to Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, or you need to check with tourism. Or no.
Automatically, people think that.
No. No, you need to donate $10 a year. How about that?
Yeah. That ain't bad. That ain't bad.
So-
You get 100,000 people donating $10 a year.
But people aren't thinking like that.
Right.
And we were looking for all kinds of different opportunities for young people. And so the other day I said to myself, wait a minute, upwards of 5 million people are traveling from my country and other countries
Yeah.
to the Bahamas every year.
Wow.
If we could just take 10% of that and we can get each one of those people to spend $50, that's $25 million a year. So my slogan for the last couple of days on my Facebook page is young entertainers and recording artists, why not make tourists your new fan base?
Boom. That's right. Now, you mentioned Facebook, my friend. So let's touch on Facebook right quick, because you are up on Facebook.
Really?
Let me tell you, you go hard. You go hard on Facebook. You go hard. It's almost like activism.
Well,
The sense that I get from reading your posts
okay.
is that you you have to keep it in front of people's eyes.
Right, right. Because they'll ignore it.
Motivated.
They'll ignore it otherwise.
And right,
because traditionally that's what's been happening.
Yeah.
If you saw that one post where I had two ostriches with their head in the ground.
I don't think I saw that one. I missed that. But okay.
And one of them is saying, have they left yet?
Oh.
If we ignore them, you think they'll go away?
Right. So do you really feel that, or that's what's happening?
If you go on my post,
in this country.
If you go on my post,
yes,
or you go on this post named exactly this, we support youth tourism programs. You'll find a post on there actually named the TYBMS Annual Fairness Report.
Okay.
Which would be more aptly named the Unfairness Report.
Okay.
Where it talks about how other young people who may aspire to excel in different phases of life through academia, there's all kinds of programs and all kinds of facilities built all through this country to make sure that they can get through that. And with the extensions of those buildings are all kinds of programs that are funded privately or publicly to make sure that these young people are led through ways of getting scholarships to go away or to go to COB. There's all kinds of things. And then when they get to COB, there's all kinds of classes that they can take for them to further themselves in those situations.
Right.
Or let's take young people who want to aspire to further themselves academically, but they also happen to have a gift of sport.
Yeah.
So the same situation is there's all kinds of facilities. Look over there on this entire area that's been shot.
The sports center?
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah, the new
multi-million dollars worth of places. You got the basketball arena. You've got 2 baseball arenas. You got the world-class swimming facility.
Yeah.
You've got the giant. But then when you look around and you ask a young person who wishes to excel in arts or entertainment, well, according to the way things are around here, that young person better keep on wishing.
Okay.
Because there's very little to compare to what I just talked about in academia.
Yes.
And what I talked about in sports that is in place for young people in arts or in music.
Right.
And there's something wrong with that.
So, when you look at you mentioned you mentioned sports, and really how we have a lot of amazing artists in this athletes, in this country that travel around the world.
Yes.
And they're essentially cultural ambassadors for the country.
Thank you very much.
And every time they
akin to Jackie Robinson.
Yes, that's right. That's actually very profound. Yeah, especially during that time period that Jackie Robinson did his thing. So, do we need to have Bahamians become successful first in music before we begin to see people understand a bit more about the necessity for
the cream always rises to the top.
Okay.
In academia, the young people who are actually being given scholarships as opposed to loans are those who have more promise. The young people who end up being on the chorister team or end up on the Olympic team are those who show more athletic ability and are more apt to be able to represent the Bahamas in the way they want to be represented on the world-class stage.
Okay.
So the same thing can happen with young people in arts and entertainment. It just hasn't been happening. The same kind of rigors or the same type of testing or some type of testing that is equivalent to making sure that we identify the cream that rises to the top, and they should be supported in the same way that deserving young people in all walks of life are being supported.
Yes.
Other than that, these young people see it as them being disenfranchised. And then you wonder why some young people want to be destructive or internalize their anger and then it explodes one day like a lid off of a boiling pot.
Right. They have all this stuff inside them that they can't get out. And so, music is cathartic in nature as well.
Right.
But there's an interesting.
So look at the role of sport. If you get a chance, I want anybody who's listening to me, go look at the fairness report. And then we issued that in September. Report. I'd love for you to come on and comment on the page and tell me what I missed or where I'm exaggerating. Because I don't want people to think that I'm just picking on the society. This is going on around the world, not just the Bahamas. This is going on around the world. If that's not true, then there wouldn't be my friend starting a youth program in Columbus, Ohio. So it's not about me coming to the Bahamas and saying, hey, you guys are doing something and everybody else has got it on the ball. But no, everybody else is not on the ball. They have this thing in America called starving artists. They think it's funny that we're starving.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
But you know, they're not laughing at doctors who starve. In fact, doctors aren't starving.
Or actors, actresses.
The thing about it is, let's face it, the Bahamas is in a unique position of setting values for what it feels is important to its society. So the Bahamas could actually set a higher value for what people do to contribute to culture.
Okay.
They could actually say, in the same way, there's a certain amount of esteem for what lawyers do and what doctors do and what executives do, then we think that because this is a cultural society and tourism being the number one industry here, it would behoove the Bahamas to bring up the level of esteem and the level of accomplishments for the young people who would represent them internationally. And by doing that, without saying it, they're actually saying to people, these are cultural contributions that Bahamians are doing here in the world. Oh, if we want to see you, where can we go to see you? Well, there's that tourism thing.
There you go. So the Youth in Tourism program essentially is a solution to this challenge then.
Right. So you have two different things. You have the high unemployment rate amongst young people.
Right.
And then you have a high crime rate. And if you go, here's what I found out. It was so funny yesterday. I looked on my site and I was writing things and I typed this one thing that said job and economic opportunities. And I started looking through the post.
Yeah.
And I didn't see nobody else talking about jobs and opportunities for young people. In fact, I don't see nobody putting up any posts about jobs, period. Creating jobs.
Right.
And that's what needs to happen in this country.
Yeah. We need to create jobs.
We need to create jobs.
Create opportunity. Yeah.
And so the program is a way of creating new jobs in the number one industry in this country, and at the same time taking some of these young people who may be doing things that they're not supposed to be doing because they're not involved in something positive. Right. So we're killing two birds and giving this other bird a greater life, and that's the industry of tourism.
All right, but this is really interesting stuff. Your report, you put together a 7-year plan.
A 7-year plan.
A 7-year plan on how to execute this. Can you give us just some quick rundown on some of the highlights?
Well, first of all, 7 years is actually a short period. I think that it would actually take as much time as it took for the situation to get where it is. It should probably take maybe even more time to get it back to where it should have been had it not gotten the way it is.
Right.
So 7 years is a very short period, but I'm very optimistic. And so I think that young people in this country, Bahamians are known for that greatness, around the world. Everyone else fought in their revolutions. Bahamians pulled off a bloodless revolution.
That's right. One of the few nations on the planet that can claim that.
So Bahamians know how to do things and do it in ways that nobody else can. That's called pioneering, When you do something a certain way and nobody else can do it but you, they have to come to you for it.
Yes.
So you got that niche, and then within that niche you're the only one that can do that niche. And that's what the Bahamas has with John Canoe. And that's what the Bahamas has with young people doing their certain styles of R&B. And that's what Bahamas has with young people doing their certain style of rap. And that's that unique, what I like to call Bahamianese.
Right.
A certain way of using the English language and a certain way of imparting information and a certain way of living a certain way.
Yes.
And being proud of it and letting the world know, hey, I was Bahamian. And so you can't put together a wonderful place that you live.
Right.
And then go on the radio and everywhere and say, it's better and then have people come here and they not fall in love with it.
Right.
You got to expect that to happen, And so my thing is, if there's a problem, whatever that problem might be, with people, only a small percentage, when they pull up the Prince George dock, only a small percentage of people are getting off that boat for whatever reasons, as if I don't know.
Things to draw them onto land.
If I'm on that boat, now, I'll take myself as a typical tourist. As an American, I can do that.
Yes.
And understand it from that point of view. If I'm on the boat,
yes,
and as I'm pulling in, if I look over there and I see this big stage facing the water, and there's young people on there doing their thing, and all kinds of music being played, big speakers happening, hey, I'm going to get off that boat. So I'm going to go walk around there and see what's going on, because that place is chock full of other tourists and they're having a good time.
Yeah.
And I'm on vacation. I came to have a good time.
Yes. Yes.
And so there needs to be things happening when you can look right off the boat and see, hey, the Bahamas is the place to be.
Yes.
You understand that?
Yeah.
And so young people can do that, you know.
Yes.
And if you understand, vacation spots are a traditional thing. The places your parents went for vacation, you're more likely to go to those same places for vacation when you come up. So that means we're getting a whole generation of young people who, when their parents were coming up, they like Nat Cole, they like Ronnie Butler and those.
Yeah.
And remember now, there was a time when there were a lot of clubs over the hill on the same stage that Nat Cole would sing on. Ronnie Butler would get up there and sing, and the same stage that Sam Cooke would come on and sing. 007 would go up on stage.
Right.
And that was their mentorship thing going on at that time. And that's why Bahamian artists were a world class at that time, because that was actually an unspoken and unplanned mentorship thing going on.
Yeah.
And that's what music is a mentorship thing. Most of the things that they try to teach you at Full Sail, they can't teach you the things, as the OJs told me. Dwight.
Yeah.
If you're on stage with a bunch of bums, no matter how good you are, you're a bum.
You a bum. The OJ told you that. That's funny.
Walter Williams was
like
one of my mentors.
All right. I like that.
And so I'm saying to you that not only here in Nassau, but in Freeport and all the other islands where there are attractions. Right now we're talking to some people, Garnell and Abaco and Jai Troy and Freeport. They're very much getting involved in what we're doing because they can see the potential in this.
Yes.
And so what really needs to happen is people need to understand that there's a whole avenue of making the Bahamas known. Once every island is known, that for whatever I came to that island for, that after I've gotten through bone fishing or scuba diving, I want to go someplace and have a good time, and we have venues with variety of entertainment on each one of these islands where people are going in large masses, where there's a plane dropping off.
Yes.
Then these are new places for the young people who live on these islands to become involved in tourism.
That's true. Yeah.
What is the number one money-making department in most hotels?
I would frankly, I would have said food.
Food and beverages. Don't leave out the beverages.
Boom. Yeah, food and beverages.
So basically what's going on in the Bahamas, as it being a tourist attraction, what is really being sold in this country more than anything else is food and beverages.
Right.
So what happens is when you start setting up these new venues, then we start talking about the trickle down. The entertainment industry creates a trickle down of money being spent on food and beverages because there are more venues where entertainment is taking place.
Very true. People go
so
seek out venues.
So what happens is this program, whereby using entertainment as being a small part of tourism, when in reality and around the world tourism is a small part of entertainment, then it makes sense that by using entertainment and by younger people starting to come and use the Bahamas as a place for where they want to have their fun, then the Bahamas will be known for that next generation term that we like to call 21st century Bahamian tourism.
No, it's out of New York City. What's his name? Andy Warhol.
Okay.
Andy Warhol. There was a book that I read on him a number of years ago, and they were speaking about how in New York the fashion industry and the different how essentially they use the arts.
That's right.
To create platforms for businesses.
There's a tourist section in Manhattan.
A tour or tourist?
A tourist section. There's a certain area within Manhattan that certain laws are passed within that certain things can happen a certain way. Like you have here, you have what is really called Nassau, which is not the whole island.
Right.
The whole island is New Providence. Yeah. But Nassau proper is actually the tourist area.
Yeah.
Most people may not realize that.
You don't realize that, no, but you're actually...
The city of Nassau is there. And over the hill, then you have your different constituencies that are named for those areas.
Yes.
But in New York, they have this squared off. I'm not sure, but I think it's from 5th to 11th.
Okay.
And from 29th to, I think, 60th Street.
Yeah.
So you have Central Park, you have Times Square, and then you have, like you said, the fashion industry all within that area. And they had to come up with a way of actually making all this time, making that section of the number one borough, the tourist area for the entire region.
And Dwight, what I understand is that what they're saying, more business deals take place in those environments and in the boardrooms.
That's
in
correct.
New York City.
Well, if we want to step out, when I lived in Los Angeles, they had this thing called doing lunch.
Was doing lunch.
Doing lunch.
Yeah.
And I met a lady who wanted to support a group that I was working with when I was lived in Los Angeles, and she invited me to lunch so we could talk about what it is that she was going to help us do.
Yes.
And I was like, well, I would really like to come to your office. She says, well, it's better if you just come. And what I found out later on is that she actually paid rent for a booth
Yes.
in that particular restaurant, and she did all of her business meetings in that restaurant.
Ha. Talk about a new cash stream, huh?
And so the setting is more relaxed. The person comes in, they're having coffee, and
You're being served.
they're being served, and it's open, and there's nobody being able to intrude in your office,
Right.
Because you're just having meetings there.
Yeah.
Then you go back to your office and you take care of business. But when you're negotiating and wanting to persuade people, that's a great setting.
Yeah.
And so, like you're saying, a lot of people use golf. They go on the golf course, and so there are so many things going on here in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Where people come here just to have business meetings. This is a great place for business meetings. So all we have to do is make sure that we
Cultivate the entertainment aspect of it.
and make sure that these venues that we put together, these new venues. Now, I'm not talking about just the venues that exist. I'm saying with our program, we want to develop new venues.
Right.
And we want to put venues, maybe it's about 7 years ago, I was recruited to be the field director for Over the Hill Tourism.
All right.
And for whatever reason, it didn't really
kick off?
It didn't really kick off.
Okay.
But over the years, I've still been researching and developing this ideal of Over the Hill tourism, which I would prefer to look at now as community and settlement tourism.
Say it again. Community.
Yes. And settlement tourism.
Okay.
And so what happens then is like when the clubs used to be over the hill, and the tourists felt free to come over the hill.
Right.
Why shouldn't there be a better sharing of the tourism revenue and product for people who live over the hill or in these settlements on the different islands?
Yes.
Because they didn't just come to go to Nassau proper, they come to enjoy the Bahamian experience.
Very nice.
And that can happen over the hill.
Center,
right?
In a way, strategic entertainment center,
right? So, like in the area where the Joe Billy Festival is, right there at Market Street,
right,
and the Lily Valley, right there at that corner.
Yeah, man.
Instead of having stage brought in there for every event, which is, of course, that's happening this weekend.
Right.
Instead of having that happen just once a year, you could actually have that stage built there, and instead of bringing tents in, we could actually have stalls built there. And what that happens is taxi drivers know that that's one place that every day they can bring people to and enjoy a nice native show on stage.
Right.
With a couple of young people who might do a little bit of rap, because there's going to be young people who come with their parents, or the young people who come by themselves during the spring vacation. We can actually change that program for that time for spring break in the taxi or a bus that will bring them straight to that locations or other locations in the Yellow Elder or further down. And of course, with the new stadium, there's the opportunity for having those big type of concerts that are well known in the United States, what they call jazz festivals.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So those things can all be integrated, and it's in the neighborhood.
Yes.
And what happens is, in the same way that the food and beverages are sold in the hotel because of the proximity, the hotel sells its own food and beverages. In the case of, say, like the Joe Billy Festival, the people in the neighborhood, they're the ones who buy the tents.
Right.
And so they would be the ones who would run the stalls, and then also the grocery stores around those areas would also feel the trickle down, because the tourists would feel comfortable about walking through the area and would become patrons in all the local businesses within those tourist attractions in the neighborhoods. And so what ends up happening is we have a rise in income for everyone in the neighborhood. And then we also have a rise in the policing of those same areas that may have lacked policing before. And so if you get what I'm saying,
I definitely do. There's a need to police. I shouldn't say that, but you know what I mean. I should say there's an increased need.
Right. And so what we're talking about is not just certain areas that people would get off the plane. Or just go to Bahamas. I have nothing wrong with that. You understand? I love Bahamas now.
That's great. But people are also looking for an authentic native island experience.
Right.
They want to be able to jump on the scooters and go. They
Thank you
want
very
to be
much.
able to jump in a taxi and say, "Look, I need some down home food." Or like when I met Jermaine Jackson. And you know what? I'm gonna put a foot on that Jermaine Jackson. I met O.J. Simpson. I worked when I was working in Atlantis in the casino.
Okay.
Just working. O.J. Simpson comes up to me and a buddy of mine, puts his arms around our shoulders and says, "Look, I need a ride to Bertha's. I need to get some of them." He didn't go to a cab. He didn't ask for a limo.
Mm-hmm.
He put his hand around us and
And
said, "Look,
take me.
I need y'all to take me." You know what I'm saying?
The true Bahamian experience.
True Bahamian experience. And Jermaine Jackson is famous for that too, of the Jackson 5, in terms of, look, when you're free, I just want to go.
That's
I just
right.
want to go get something. No muss, no fuss.
Right.
And people want that authentic experience
Right,
when
and
they
don't
travel.
want that uniformity of got to get in the cab.
Yeah.
The guy got to get back because he got to pick somebody else up,
Yeah.
or it becomes expensive, and then it's not a personal thing. Whereas if you're riding with somebody that you meet and you take a liking to them and they take a liking to you, this is something they take back home.
That's right.
And they talk to their friends about. And you want to see that 5 million turn into 10 million.
Yes.
And so then what happens is, so people are so busy making money and doing things to make money
Yeah.
that they don't have time to be doing other things. And then when they're making this money, there's also added time to go spend that money and to enjoy the things that you buy from making that money, that you can enjoy more, spend more time with those things, so you're not out there doing other things. So what happens is, as opposed to other things, we're creating situations where there's plenty of time for the great things that the Bahamas is known for. Because as you and I both well know, it's better in the Bahamas.
That's what's up. That's actually my favorite Bahamian jingle.
Tada does a great job with that.
Tada. Well, hey, I
And
remember
Fred.
that Super Bowl, man. When I remember that, when that first aired, that commercial first aired, big ups.
And so if you go on the Young Bahamian Music Society
Yes, website.
YouTube page,
YouTube page, okay.
you'll actually see testimonial videos and or songs that young people have done over the years. We haven't been doing that, posting very much of that anymore. But at the beginning or the end of each one of our testimonial stories, we actually used that bite off of that commercial, It's Better in the Bahamas, because whoever we're contacting, we're always promoting the Bahamas as the place to be.
Yes.
The Young Bahamian Music Society, we could have called ourselves, and it was suggested we call ourselves the Young People's Music Society, but I wanted the word Bahamas in there because I think that's very important. And then when we came up with the STARS program, I made sure it was called STARS Bahamas. It's because this is a place that, in every opportunity, is a brand. And that's what's so great about us being associated with the Compass Point Studio, because it's actually probably the best over the years.
Yeah.
From
Most
72
notable
until
studio.
now. International, worldwide, global, how many different ways I can say it, trademark, brand name associated with music, period.
That's right.
And so for the Young Bahamian Music Society to be gifted with the opportunity to have young people come in, and we do a summer camp out there. We had a great one last year. We're going to have a great one this year. And to be gifted with the opportunity to have one day, like Fred Ferguson said in the interview, that if you look, you'll see that's posted there, where maybe we can get Bahamar and we can get people over in PI to put money together so that we can turn Compass Point Studio into a place where we can develop indigenous forms of music in its rawest form, and then the hybrids of those music can be also developed there, because we've identified the indigenous forms of music, and they're said there. We have 2 great studios out there.
Yes.
And it would be just wonderful to be able to use that, and also use as you look on our report, we also talk about the use of the National Performing Arts Center.
Yes.
For young people to utilize that theater setting and that stage setting to stage their performances. And it also uses as a venue to present more presentations from a cultural aspect.
Right.
It's right over the bridge. So there's no reason why it's not being used more to actually, right now you're having a lot of foreign entertainment being brought to venues, and once Bahamar gets here, there's going to be a lot of foreign entertainment brought to these venues, and so the Bahamas itself and the Bahamian people need to be a part of that game and make sure that not just Awaki, but also the Dundas or the stadium, those places are used where entertainment can also be brought on a large scale in the same way that other great markets around the world do it.
All right. Last question. What are your thoughts on a national school of music for the country?
Well, it's like most things, it really hurts me that it hasn't happened already.
Yeah.
And but the Bahamas is struggling with COB becoming a university, so it's understandable. But at the same time, you got great musicians here, whether they are what they call legitimate musicians or pop musicians. You have the Justilian brothers, you have Chris Fox. You just have so many people who can really, and then on the other side you have people like, I don't want to leave out Fred Ferguson, but on the other side you have people like Dylan McKenzie and Ira Storr and Colin and Obi. There's just so many people who could actually. I was just talking to owner Eddie, who owns a studio.
Yeah, Eddie Carter.
We were in the bank, and he's actually saying that once the program gets going, he wouldn't mind coming and being one of the instructors with the technical stuff that we can do by utilizing BTVI to start teaching young people the technical aspects of the recording industry and the video industry, instead of them going all the way to the U.S. to these different schools. The Bahamas can set its own world-class standards on how things could be taught in the technical world, and it could be done right here. Right. In fact, we could do it in such a way that instead of people going to America to those technical schools, some Americans will be coming here to the Bahamian technical schools. And so those are the things, a lot of countries, the Columbus, Ohio, because Ohio State University was there, it became a center for all types of schools. DeVry started there. Other technical schools started there. And so it's an educational center. The Bahamas could be an educational center.
Yes.
Because of the level of PhDs who never come back here. If we can set it up properly, all those people with PhDs will start coming back here to the Bahamas, and that brain drain will be reversed. Right. And so I'm saying to everyone who in the sound of my voice, now is the time.
Now is the time.
If not now, then when? And if not us, then who? Now is the time. Because once a couple of our young people start making really big noise, and that's getting ready to happen, start making really big noise in the record industry, then the record industry itself, and they've been known to do it, once they find a repetition of great music coming from a certain location, they start flooding the area.
Yep, they swing you away.
And so when they do that, all you guys out there who have been mentoring young people and want to make sure they got treated properly, now's the time to make sure you talk to their parents or get with their managers and get them signed, because once 2 or 3 young people start making money in this town doing music, it's going to be great. I want to say one more thing. It wasn't unusual for me, in my experience, to know some of my friends or some of my friends' friends or somebody who I met while I was pursuing our careers who was broke one day. And the next time I saw them, they were millionaires.
Wow.
And so people talk to me a lot of times, Mr. Jones, well, that doesn't happen here. Well, it didn't happen in Columbus, Ohio. But now with the internet, success is no longer a position of your posterior, it's a state of mind. And so I want to say to all young people that there are artists who you idolize or look up to who actually have an office somewhere, and they have secretaries, and they have people, janitors cleaning up that office, and they have people, executives who are making decisions for them while they're on the road. And the secretary of that executive is making enough money to buy a car, to buy home, and send her children to college. So I'm saying to people, understand, once we get some great entertainers in this town who are at that level, that not only creates jobs within the industry, it creates all types of what they like to call cottage industries, and then it also creates jobs for people. When we build these venues, somebody has to clean these venues up. Somebody has to maintain these venues. Some technician has to run the sound for those and light in these venues. There's all types of jobs that will be created by bringing youth into tourism.
Wow. Yes. Well, thank you very much. I mean, this is a phenomenal interview. We really appreciate you coming in. Folks, this is, of course, Dwight Jones. The Young Bahamian Music Society. Man, this was a lot to go over, and I want to thank you. I have a copy of the annual report on fairness to young entertainers for 2012, or as you say, unfairness report. I also have a copy of the youth in tourism.
And they're both available. They're posted on 3 locations on my personal page, Dwight Jones.
Yes.
And they're also located on the Young Bahamian Music Society page. And there's a page, a new page, where we want everyone to go on there and like.
Yes.
Type in we space support
We support
youth in tourism. And when it comes up, like that page and make a comment and let people know that you support what we're doing and that you're supporting the whole idea of making the Bahamas a greater tourism attraction than Las Vegas. I hope a lot of my American friends aren't going to get mad at me about that, but
it sounds good to me.
They use entertainment to draw all those thousands and thousands of people for years to the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
So,
and where are we? We are the oasis.
I like to call this
make it happen.
Urban in the Sea.
Urban in the Sea.
And so,
I think they never heard that before.
Yeah, well, our record label is Urban Sea Music. And Keith, you and other people who are behind the program, other media people, we want to say at this point, thank you. And thanks to all the other media houses. And when there's an earthquake or some type of disaster around the world, who is the first people who step up and say, let's do something to benefit those people?
Always artists.
The artists.
Benefit
and
concerts.
So people in media are stepping up first because they're actually leading the way. Media is writing the history of this country.
Yes.
And media also puts out the history of this country in lieu of someone else stepping up and doing it. And so hats off to people in the media houses and hats off to the decision makers who are going to decide to step out of the box and start putting our plan into action. Because if this plan in whole and part, any parts of it put into action, it will create jobs and economic opportunities for young people. In fact, people of all ages.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you once again. And I'm going to join the Facebook page. I'm going to keep up on what's going on. Keep me up.
Yeah,
keep
man.
me up on what's going on.
I appreciate you inviting me.
All right. Anytime. Hey, God bless, brother.
Thank you.